YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. After day 4 of the NFL Combine, the final day of the Combine, recapping it and giving you my winners and losers and taking a look at draft position. Where do they come from? Where do they go to in terms of their draft stock, draft position? Corners and safeties, big day for them. One of my favorite days. I think the drills and really the 40 time matter most for this group. So this is definitely my favorite day. We'll break it down here in just a second. We got two channels, Goat House and the Goat House Plus. Please subscribe to both of them. Full NFL content, free agency, NFL draft, of course. Twitter and Instagram, you'll find the link down below for those as well. Daily posts, always talking football, answering any questions on the Twitter. Those are must follows and we would really appreciate it if you can help us out by following those. And then something new, the Goat House podcast actually got 2 episodes out. Really enjoyed making that second episode and can't wait to do more of these. We're on Spotify and Apple, so please check that out. Always adding more to the Goat House here. And the Patreon link that's in the description will get you those podcasts in video form and extra NFL content. Start with the big winner for me, Terrell, the cornerback from Clemson today. Big time for him. He almost kind of like a forgotten one, because the national championship happens. And, he's had a great season. National championship happens. He gets beat by, the best receiver in the country and the best quarterback in the country, let's be honest, the best team in the country, and that is LSU, Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase, really. And that happens, and people kind of ripping A.J. Terrell and then kind of forgotten about. Let's forget about him. And that's kind of a shame because he's a pretty darn good corner. Very good year. Lockdown corner. Didn't give up much. And then I talked about it before. When he did, it wouldn't be a big play, and he would make sure that he stopped it. He would come up and make the tackle. So he really let nothing behind him for the most part this year, and that's what I like. Not really shocked or surprised about the 40 time. 4.42 is a great number. If I had to guess, it would have been a 4.47, 8. So that's a great time, and especially for corners. It's no longer if you can find a corner that's just as this athletic and physical, that's great, but it's really, it used to be the physical corners game. It's no longer that. It's pretty much you have to be able to move, you have to be fast, or you're out. It's pretty much what it is. It really is, to keep up with these offenses. And so having that 4.42 is a big win, and the other numbers are pretty big as well. But you look at the drills, and the drills show the speed. It shows their hips, their footwork, and he was so smooth, so fluid in those drills, and that's what stood out, and a huge winner for me. And before, it was kind of a round 2 guy, top 50 pick around there, and I really think he made himself a round 1 player. I think a team will take him in round 1 or give a round 1 grade, which there could be more than 32 players with the round 1 grade. We've seen it before, so really he still could go early second, but I think a team will really like A.J. Terrell and would like to work with him. Really no flaws to his game. The only, I've seen some false steps sometimes, when in press, and I guess getting beat pretty bad by Jamar Chase. That's not only one time, he doesn't have a whole bunch of negatives. A lot of these corners have the tackling. Tackling seems to be a negative. So I do like Terrell. I think he has a good chance to go in first round. And then we move on to C.J. Henderson from Florida, who had an excellent day. 4.39 is great. I was a little surprised by that. I figured 4.4s, but we're pretty much there. But he broke it. So there's that. Being 6'1", being 204, he's very physical and he has that speed. So it's kind of that rare. Like if you can find the physical and freakish athleticism, athletes, it's rare. And some coaches are still insisting on going for the physical ones because those used to be the ones that took over the league, and it's really not like that anymore. But if you can get the 2-for-1, that's great. And you may have that with Henderson. Only downside is tackling. Yeah, I think he wants to be physical. He wants to tackle. Just some of his tackles that not everyone's gonna love. And then it could be over aggressive, over physical actually in coverage, which isn't the worst negative. That's something I noticed. Kind of almost he could get himself in trouble with some PIs, but not really a big negative. Pretty much same boat for A.J. Terrell. Helped himself big time. Very, very smooth in the drills. And top 50 to round 1. Before it was we were kind of getting the sense that he would go before Terrell, and I still think that's what it is. But they're pretty much in the same ballpark there. It was more common to see him in round ones already before, unlike Terrell. Only see some here and there, but pretty much in the same boat. Very, very good days for those corners. And then safety Jeremy CHINN from Southern Illinois, kind of sneaking on people's radars heading into the combine, because how big he is. He's got good tape. And, yeah, kind of in that round 3 range. And then, being that big and running that fast and, testing that well is, especially compared to some of these other DBs or the safeties to be exact, that just, tested pretty poorly. I think, it really helped him. He had a great day. It helped him. He could sneak into round 2. Still could go early 3, but I think a team will take a chance on him. They rather, take the big guy that's also faster than some of the other guys that, they played against better competition, but worried about the speed and the size. I think there's going to be a team out there that would take the chance on Jeremy CHINN. A big dude. Maybe they got a plan for him, moving him around a bit, coming up in the box, almost like a linebacker position. It's very possible, but very impressive. A guy that's I think put himself on more people's radar now. And then Antoine Winfield Jr., who's been growing on me, growing on everybody. I feel like safety from Minnesota. Felt like a second-round lock already for the most part. And then I still think he goes second, but we can call him a top 50 player. I wouldn't rule him out first round. Safety position is pretty interesting, especially with the top tier. With the first round guys, because I wouldn't be surprised if 0 safeties went in the first round. And I wouldn't really be surprised if somehow Winfield snuck up to being. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying there's a chance. I think Winfield could be the first one off the board, depending on what teams are looking for. My money's still on McKinney or Delpit, obviously, but it's not something I'm ready to rule out. Very instinctive at the same time of being a very good playmaker. The only downside, he's a little short. And then there was a downside of what's he going to time? Let's try to keep it under the 4.60 because he doesn't have the strides. And then he runs a 4.45, which is fantastic. Tests very well. But most importantly, I guess the 4.45 is pretty damn important for being a defensive back. But yeah, insanely smooth, which isn't really a surprise in the drills. It's an instinctive playmaker. To me, that's rare. It's rare. So definitely a guy that I expect to go very early in the second round and definitely helped himself in the combine there. Another one, Kyle Duggar from LENOIR RHYNE. We kind of saw him come up at the Senior Bowl, kind of put everybody. Here's Kyle Duggar. It was kind of like that new guy that nobody really knew about. Pretty good size. Obviously freakish build to him more. But then you look at the freakish numbers, 4.49, 42-inch vert, and then the 134 broad jump. Pretty ridiculous numbers. A freakish athlete. Shows up on tape. You see the reactions, and it's more having the reactions and actually going and, having the explosion to get to the ball, and that's kind of what you see a lot from Duggar. There was some talk about him in round 2 before. I kind of felt comfortable in round 3, as did pretty much everybody, but I think he could have made himself a round 2. It's that fun, project for teams. He played linebacker, played safety. I think he's going to play in the box a lot. Kind of led that defense over there too. Yeah, I guess the question is just the level of competition because, you'll see some people call it a concern, I guess. It's not really a player's concern, but they'll call it a concern for even players that play FBS football, Division I football, and we'll say they're playing in the MAC or the Sun Belt or something. They're going to say, some people will say, that they didn't play against the best competition. But then what is this like? This is an even further step down, and this guy's got to go to play to the NFL. So that could be a concern. Again, I don't find that a concern to the player. I guess it just makes it more of a risk. But a freakish dude, teams will want to work with him. Has a chance to stay in round 3, I think. Kind of like Jeremy CHINN. We'll see. But definitely helped himself. And then next we got L'Jarius Sneed from LA Tech. Very interesting one because, you get this feel that, the NFL teams want to see him he was a safety, actually, at Louisiana Tech. And you kind of get this feel that, he's going to be moved to corner. And you look at this guy, you see the measurables, and I look at this guy and I see a cornerback. I definitely do, and you see the numbers as well. And that's a big win for him right off the bat, before the numbers, actually. Having teams interested in you switching to corner, and that's kind of a thing. Several teams, want this guy to switch to corner. That's a good thing. They're interested in this guy at this position, and then he goes out, he looks like a cornerback. He's got 4.37 40. I mean, he's at the top of the line for all these tests here. And, freakish athletes, pretty solid size, cornerback build. Teams want you at this specific position. That's to me, it's a huge win. It's a huge win. I think teams would rather take a chance on him than some of these guys that maybe are a little more proven at corner. Obviously, no one's that proven, if they haven't played in the NFL. But then they have, the question somewhere else, maybe the slow 40. And they would much rather take a chance on him. So I definitely think he'll go, he wasn't really getting any talk at all, 7th round, maybe even undrafted. You look at where the cornerback class kind of drops off. Yeah, kind of around that round 5. I think majority of teams that are trying to take a corner will go for the upside guy, go for a little bit of a project guy over the slower guy. I really do. So the main thing, you may say the main thing are the ridiculous numbers, but the main thing to me is that teams are very interested in him switching to corner. That's a very big positive. And that we all could probably see that this guy is a corner. It's great. That's great for him. And then, we could talk about a bunch of. Jeff Okudah tested pretty well too. I know he got banged up a little bit. He's gonna be fine. Nothing. Surprising from him. He didn't really help his stock a bunch. People like him at 3. It's very possible. But yeah, I do want to point out that he's the number 1 corner by a long shot. There was never any question. He had some good numbers. Some other guys, a lot of guys sat out because they were too good to test, and he didn't do that. And I think jumped after he did his vertical jump after he got hurt. So I respect that. Nothing surprising though, nothing changing there. Javelin Guidry from Utah. We heard about him being a former track star and that he could run really fast, and the second fastest guy in the entire combine. So it's a guy that still. There's a chance he may not be drafted still. It could be a late round guy, but still a win if you run that fast. 2 guys that are pretty similar to me, Reggie Robinson the second from Tulsa, and then Michael Ojemudia from Iowa. I think big physical corners, not freakishly big, I wouldn't say, but they're solid physical corners. And you got all these other corners that, looking at their size, their build, they should run faster. They're not, but these guys tested very well, better than maybe some would expect. So these guys, being the bigger physical guys, having those numbers, showing that they're fast, which is very important for the defensive backs in today's NFL. Like I said, that's big time. That's big time. So these guys definitely help themselves. Ojemudia is a guy that, he really could sneak in 3rd, 4th round. He really could. And Robinson, could be like the 4th, 5th round. And Christian Fulton, who's more of the bigger name, obviously from LSU, 1st round prospect perhaps. Question with him was. Not really a negative, but a question with him was, does he have that top-end speed that everyone's looking for at corner? Probably going to run the 4.5s, hoping he keeps under 4.6, runs in the 4.4. So, that's great for him. That's big time. That kind of solves that. The rest of the workout, is not really what's putting him up here. It's more of, the 40 time. That was not that surprising to me, but I guess kind of cleared some things up. Then you got Harrison Hand from Temple. Tested very well, was very smooth all across the board. And then we see kind of CHINN at this time of the year last year, I guess more of the Senior Bowl, but kind of sneaking up from Temple out of nowhere. All of a sudden, everyone's like, okay, CHINN, add this guy to the cornerback pool. So Hand kind of, not quite that high, but kind of can sneak in there and be maybe that 4th round pick, maybe even 3rd. Then Tanner Muse, who... everyone's not really that thrilled with the prospect, but as a prospect, but tested extremely well here. So you got to kind of mention him here. It was kind of surprising too, the numbers he's putting up. And then the losers, I keep going back to it. And 40 speed, it all matters big time, for the defensive backs. It matters in general for today's NFL. It's a speed game. So it matters more now than ever for in the NFL in general. DBs, I put them at the top. I guess what receivers too, but I put the DBs at the very top for how important it is. And if you're gonna run slower, it's gonna hurt you. It's gonna hurt you a bit. Xavier McKinney very well still could be the number 1 safety, could be the first one off the board, but that sure didn't help him. Running into 4.6s. I thought if you would have told me, he's either going to run a 4.40 or a 4, in the 4.6s. I would have predicted the 4.40. Not that that was my prediction when he was going to run, but I was a little surprised by it, and that definitely doesn't help. Some teams may move him down because of that. And you get the Cameron Dantzler, who's got a great tape. He does everything right. Played very well against LSU, which is extremely rare. The only downside, he's a little underweight. He's very thin. How's he going to hold up in the NFL? People overreact from the size. He actually did gain some weight, put on some size, put on some muscle, but then ran a very, very poor 40 in the 4.6s. And, that's definitely a concern, especially for a cornerback. It's factual that teams will. Sometimes teams won't draft 4.6s guys. Dantzler, very good player. If he's sitting there very late, I'm sure a team would take a chance on him. But it matters big time. That speed matters big time for these corners. So he definitely did not help himself in that group of those. Well, before the combo, we locked in as first and second round corners. You put the whole group together. Really take away Okudah because he was locked in at corner 1. You just take the rest of them, rounds 1 through 2. They're pretty tight, before. So I think he really fell off of that because of the 40. I know it's just a 40. Can't overreact too much, but we're talking about cornerbacks here. It does matter. Dane Jackson, I thought it would test a lot better. I think he was in the bottom tier for pretty much everything, so it doesn't help him. I think a late-round pick from Pittsburgh there. Then Miles Bryant, same thing. You expect him to be a little faster. Quick. He did have the good 3-cone, actually. But other than that, you expect a little more from him. Then A.J. Green, the bigger physical corner. You don't really expect to be lightning, but running in the 4.6s does not help you. Projected, some people say as high as 3, but that's a 4th-round pick. It could have moved him down a bit. It moved him down a little bit. And then you got a safety from Notre Dame, Jalen Elliott, who, teams were kind of split on from what I've heard, or scouts were split on because, early years at Notre Dame, this guy looked like a future second-round pick at the latest. And then, it kind of went down a little bit. We see it all the time, but kind of went down, last couple of years from Notre Dame. So teams were kind of like, we can get him back to playing at this level. And then, some teams were valuing, I guess, more recent years, and running 4.8s was extremely surprising and very disappointing. So he made himself down to, at best, I think the bottom of the draft there. So that's unfortunate for a safety that played at a pretty high level in the past. It was not expecting 4.8s from him. So the speed, I don't want to overreact from it, but it's defensive backs. It's It matters big time. It really does. So it's tough for some of these players, but McKinney could very well still be a first round safety. Again, it wouldn't be shocking to me. It wouldn't be completely shocking if a single safety didn't go in the first round. We've seen a run of them in the second. So we'll see. It's very interesting, but the speed guys definitely help themselves. Some of those corners that were talked about as first round corners during the season kind of, I think, bumped themselves back up there. Terrell, Henderson, back to it. So that's good to see. It's good to see there. That's going to do it, though. We had recaps for every single day of the Combine, so check those out. We have a podcast now. We have a Twitter, Instagram, a new channel. Please help us out by subscribing, following to all of that. More content on the way. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.